I was reflecting on a phrase that is common in psychology, which is depression is anger turned inwards. Now, depression can sometimes come from loss, such as, a loved one's death or something that doesn't really have to do with feeling betrayed or deceived or hurt directly in some way. It can just be a natural part of the grief process. But oftentimes I do believe that depression and a deep feeling of sadness does come from anger that is not expressed outwardly. A lot of times people feel that their anger is bad, and so they suppress it. And so instead of releasing it, it turns back upon oneself, and that can feel like a form of depression, which is basically beating yourself up. And instead of being angry at another, you're angry at yourself, and you might not even know that that's what is behind that sad feeling, but the anger feels like it needs to go somewhere and do something. And so going towards yourself, you say, you don't have a right to be here, you're horrible, you're dumb, you're ugly, or whatever criticism you come up with towards yourself that makes you feel miserable or makes you feel hopeless about your life. And I was thinking, how many people have, probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have killed themselves over the years simply because they weren't comfortable with anger. They weren't at peace with expressing anger. And I think that the thing is with anger that we can fear that if we express it, then we will stay in it and become an angry person, or just kind of relish in the anger, and it'll take us over. But it can be released. I did another video called How to Do Anger Work, and in addition to the techniques that I listed there, I also feel that if you're like beating a mattress or a pillow with something, it's helpful to also do some deep breath work. And even if you're not doing kind of a beating kind of motion, swearing, breathing out heavily, breathing in, that kind of release, just doing breath work can also be another form of release. But don't be afraid of anger, because it is a natural part of our evolutionary process. We, on a biological level, we've come from animals, and so for a long time, the ability to protect oneself with anger is a very useful thing. Now, I don't think there's an excuse to hurt another person, using violence, unless it's in self-defense. But we can still express it and get it out of us through, pounding on things, yelling and screaming and swearing and all that kind of intense release work. Because a lot of times, if you release your anger, then you feel lighter afterwards, and all of a sudden that heaviness and that sadness that you feel like you've carried around, it dissipates, and you can put things in perspective again. And I've also noticed that with anger, if I have some kind of anger that's unexpressed, and I'm trying to just stay aligned with higher vibrational thoughts and so forth, and the more traditional forgiving spiritual kind of vibrations and stuff, then the anger still finds a way to work out. Like get really upset during a game or something like that, or just a little something goes wrong, it's like, like frustration comes out. And I think that's a sign. If we're feeling as though we're easily triggered, or we're carrying around a heaviness, tension, anger might be behind it. So even though I believe we are, as a species, moving towards a less angry kind of way of being, it's okay to deal with the fact that we have anger. If we feel hurt, feel betrayed, feel like somebody did wrong to us and so forth, there may be an ultimate truth that all situations are co-created and all that stuff like that. But to get to that place of understanding and forgiveness and peace, anger is part of the grief process. And grief has been well researched to, to the point where it's just hard to ignore that it's not just about feeling sad during grief, it's about feeling anger, no matter what's going on that is bringing up the grief. And even if that is the loss of somebody through death, even if they didn't do anything wrong, you still might be angry because they're gone, because they left, because they didn't take better care of themselves, because they didn't want to stick around enough to still be in your life, whatever it is. There's all kinds of things that can be triggers for this kind of these kind of feelings. So embrace your feelings, express yourself, breathe it out, and if you want more information, do a search for my video, How to Do Anger Work, and that goes through some various suggestions with that.